Malala, welcome to CGTN.
Thank you so much. It's an honor.
People are extremely interested in how you are doing right now. Would you like to brief us a little bit about that?
Yes.
Where are you living? How you are doing with your life?
So I live in the UK and I am studying at Oxford. I'm studying PPE, which is Philosophy, Politics and Economics.
What a combination.
Yes, a great combination, but it's quite hard. You have to work a lot of reading. But I am enjoying my time because it's an opportunity to socialize, get to know incredible and amazing people at university, make good friends. So I'm enjoying it and I'm excited for this.
But you're away from your culture. So how are you going to do about your cause, which is girl education? I guess mainly in the developing world.
So I'm focused on the education of all girls all around the world. And there are more than 130 million girls who are out of school. So I have been making trips to Nigeria, to Mexico, to Lebanon, to Jordan, and I have been traveling around the world to make sure that we can reach out to all girls who are out of school. And so even though I have been away from Pakistan, unfortunately, and I want to go back, but it has not stopped me from my fight for education, and I continue my work.
Continue your walk, and you walk with people, other people right now, not a lone journey anymore.
Yes.
You work with the foundation, the Malala Foundation.
Yes, so
you also work with different partners. Help us to understand that part.
So I set up Malala Fund 5 years ago, and my vision was to see every girl in school.
Yeah.
Simple, all girls in school, whether the girls are in China or India or in Mexico or in Africa, everywhere we want to see girls getting quality education, because when we empower girls, they become empowered women. And then they contribute to the economy, then they contribute to the society. So right now we are focusing on empowering local advocates, local champions in their work for education. So for example, in Afghanistan, we are supporting a project where they are training female teachers so that girls can go to school where there are female teachers rather than male teachers. In Lebanon, we are supporting e-learning skills, we're making sure that girls can have access to STEM skills as well. So we are looking at area what the problem is and how can we address the problem, how can we solve that problem, so that girls can have access to quality education.
But then the question is how? Isn't that the most important question? How? Do you have some already ready remedy at this point?
So we are supporting local partners. We are giving them grants, we are giving them supports. We are also helping them in their advocacy. So we are doing advocacy in the countries, we are doing advocacy globally as well.
Have you met some of the girls that your cause is supporting?
Definitely. Just a
Tell me
week
about
ago.
them.
So just a week ago, I was in Lebanon, and I visited one of my projects that we are supporting, and we were in this room of 12 girls, and they were all Syrian refugees. And I asked those girls what their dreams were, and one girl said she wants to become an architect. And when I asked why, she said she decided to become an architect because on the day when she left her country, Syria, she saw her country devastated and destroyed. And that day she decided that one day she'll become an architect so she can rebuild her country. So now girls like her are receiving education, they're receiving education through digital learning. So we are making it easier for them to have quality education. Yes, so I am in touch with girls, I meet them, I visit these schools that we are supporting, and it's just amazing to see how education can change the lives of girls. Education gives them hope.
Yeah, but think about it, Malala. Some years ago, you were one of them, the so-called victim type. And when you listen to what they had to say, does it brought you back any memory of the past?
Definitely, when the girls were talking about how they saw wars and conflicts in their region and they had to leave their home, it was not their choice. They had no other option. And it just reminded me of my time in South Valley when there was terrorism happening, when girls' education was banned, when more than 400 schools were destroyed, and we had to leave our valley for 3 months. And that feeling that when you don't know when you would go back to your home is the worst time of your life.
Do you hate those people who you thought might have done this to you today?
To be honest, I don't think back. I don't think about those people.
You don't want to think back? Or
I don't want to think back.
Or not necessary?
I think what's important is that you just look forward, and I think I just wish that they can learn about humanity. They can learn about the true message of Islam. They can learn that it is always wrong to harm anyone, and they learn the importance of education. That education is important for their daughters, for their sisters as well. And I had forgiven them long ago, and I still say I forgive them, and I just do not think back.
You've forgiven them already?
Yes.
What does it take to forgive? It takes a lot. To me, it takes a lot. And it's a big learning process. What does it take for you?
I just, when I was recovering from that attack, I think I became stronger, and I realized that I was standing up for a cause that was so important that this was just a second life, and I dedicated this life to girls' education. I said I will just fight for education throughout my life now. So I just don't think back, and I don't think about the attack, and I just feel like it just never happened. I just ignored for a second that it just never happened.
Because it will make you more comfortable, or make you feel safer, or you think it's not relevant anymore?
I think I just look forward and never look back. But then when I go and I meet girls in refugee camps, and when they tell me their stories, then it just reminds me of my past. But then they learn from my story, and I learn from their stories as well.
The reason I want to ask you this question is there's a lot of things that we need to do in order to move us forward.
Yes.
Particularly for women, girls particularly included. So what does it take for us to forgive, to put aside the thing that is not relevant anymore, for us to move forward? Usually we have a lot of burden with us.
Yes.
Is there any advice or any takeaway that we can share from you?
I think definitely I'll tell women to be brave and strong, and to not let any obstacles in their life stop them from going forward. But it's not
easy. Brave and strong,
yes.
That's only adjective. It's not easy.
I know it's hard. I know it's challenging. I don't say it's easy, but I think if you stop, then that's even harder. If you stop, because
I love that.
I always say that some people ask me, like, why did you start speaking out? Like, it was hard, it was challenging, and I said it was even harder to live in that situation and not speak out. How could you live in terrorism? How could you live in a place where there are these people with guns and targeting people, destroying schools and banning girls from education, banning women from going outside the houses? Like, how could you imagine your life for a second in that? And I thought I would put my life at risk, but I'll speak out, because I just cannot live in this situation. This is even worse.
It's a great point, I think.
So if women want to see change, they have to speak out.
And they have to stick to it.
They have to stick to it, and they have to be brave. And I really appreciate seeing these movements around the world when women are speaking out and raising their voice against sexual harassment, or speaking out about all the violence that they face. And women have to be brave. But also we need changes in the law, responsibility from the governments as well. So everyone has to play a role in this. It's not just one person's job, but I think women also have to stay brave and resilient.
But you know, Malala, people would say, I'm not a fighter like you. You know, many women would say it that way, that I want a comfortable life. I don't want to be with my fists shouting about my advocacy all the time. But I also want a beautiful life. Is that possible?
I think advocacy and campaigning does not really mean that you come out on the streets every day. It's the small steps that you take. For example, you make sure that your daughter is safe and protected, and she gets safe and quality education. You make sure that you take care of your health. You make sure that you get equal pay as men. You make sure that you are not sexually harassed. You make sure that you have equal rights as anyone else. This is not activism that you are on the streets every day and you are, I don't know, doing protests. That is also important at some point, but I think the activism that I talk about, the change that I want to talk about, is the everyday things that you do. What do you teach your children? What do you teach your friends? How do you interact? And when you see that there is some kind of discrimination happening against women, do you speak out or not?
Now your life has changed from nobody knows to everybody knows. That's a huge transition. Now when you reflect back, how do you see this transition? And how do you see other girls when they're going through their transitions in their own version, whether it's in China or elsewhere in the world, Pakistan, India, wherever?
To me, I'm just the old Malala as I was before. The world might know me or not, but I haven't changed. I'm just still the same.
Okay, so use a few adjectives. What is that, the norm, Malala?
How do I describe myself? I don't know, just like I am an activist for girls' education and for women's empowerment. I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I have a family, I have friends, and I'm just part of this world where I want a better world for everyone. And I'm focusing especially on girls, and I hope that people and girls in China, in other countries I know that they're following my story, but I also hope that...
You used to be one person. You make sure people understand your story, and therefore they got the courage. But now you want to bring everybody into this process. This is a huge transition, I would say. So what have you learned through this process? How that can be done? Whether it's working with politicians, business people, or different societies of very different cultures.
Yes, I have good experience in working with all these sectors, from government to business to NGOs, to then working on ground and meeting young girls and activists. And I think the important thing is that we all have to work together. It's not the job of one person or one community. Business people, they have expertise, they have science, they have skills that they need to invest in girls' education and their empowerment. Government also need to change their policies. They need to increase their funding towards girls' education. NGOs, they also need to come together and exchange and share what they have learned and how they can improve their work. And also we need to go and reach out to young girls and support them in their empowerment, and also that they can get quality education.
I can tell you have a lot in your mind and a lot of work to do. Hopefully we could all join you.
China is always called a good friend of Pakistan, and I think recently I have been in touch and working on economic development, but also how both countries can work on the empowerment of young girls and women.